Hello, Megan here, and today we're doing a quick little mini training on cravings, and more specifically, 3 ways to handle cravings without relying on willpower. So first, I want to go over why this topic is so important. If you struggle with cravings, hopefully I have your attention, but what I really want to point out is that you should not need willpower or discipline to stick with your nutrition approach. So if you're ever saying, I just don't have enough willpower or discipline to make X decision, then you're probably doing it wrong. And so I just want to point that out, that you can be eating in a way that is just enjoyable and you're making very conscious decisions on a regular basis without needing willpower and without needing discipline. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that cravings, and why I like talking about cravings so much as a topic, they're your body's way of telling you that something is out of balance. We've been taught that cravings are a bad thing, that we should ignore cravings, that we're bad for having cravings, and that's simply not true. It's just a way of your body communicating with you and telling you something. And that also means that cravings are an opportunity to understand what your body needs. So when you have a craving, you can simply get curious about it and figure out what your body needs from there. So let's get into some kind of like need to knows before we get into the top 3 tips. So the first one, I kind of just mentioned this, but the answer to handling cravings is not more willpower or discipline. So the tips I'm not going to give you are to drink water instead, or to take a bubble bath, or to distract yourself with a book, or to just go for a walk. We need to understand where those cravings are coming from, and anything that requires willpower or discipline, leaving it out of the house is another example. You should be able to have foods in the house and not feel out of control around them. So willpower and more restriction, cutting those foods out, just trying to avoid them is not the answer. The second thing is that if you're actually working with your physiology, and I'll talk more about what that looks like, but if you're doing that, you understand how your body works and you're consistently giving it the right foods for your body, not what you see somebody else doing or not what some other influencer or guru recommends to you, even me, you have to customize it for yourself, then cravings will just become less and less frequent and you no longer feel out of control around certain foods. It kind of happens naturally, which is really nice. The other need to know is that there are a number of reasons that you could be experiencing cravings, and a lot of them point to underlying imbalances. And those underlying imbalances show up as cravings. So cravings give us a good opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, kind of pull back the layers and figure out where are these actually coming from. The cravings are the most obvious, annoying thing, but there could be issues with your blood sugar. You could be eating an imbalance of macronutrients, so protein, carbs, and fats. They're not customized to you. Maybe you're not eating enough food. Maybe you're not getting enough calories, whether that's intentional or unintentionally. Maybe you're over-exercising or doing what you think is the right amount and the right type of exercise for you, but really it's leading to more and more imbalances. Maybe you have stress. It could be obvious stress or it could be less obvious stress, like gut imbalances or mental emotional stress or environmental stress. And then we have gut imbalances as well, dysbiosis, that can cause cravings and a whole other host of issues like inflammation, which can also trigger cravings. And then nutrient deficiencies. So maybe you're deficient in very specific nutrients. This is very common in today's day and age. And so we need to address that as well. So cravings are kind of an opportunity to pull back the layers and figure out what else is going on. And then the last thing that I just want to make a point of is that you shouldn't be always fighting cravings. If you're living day to day trying to avoid foods or fight them instead of just like enjoying food and knowing and feeling confident in what to eat, how much to eat, and feeling really good in your body, then we have some more work to do. So instead of fighting them constantly, you just need to understand why you have them in the first place. And that's kind of like the key to unlock the door to feeling really, really good in your body. So those are some things that I just wanted to mention before we get into the 3 tips. And now we'll touch on these 3 tips. And these are like the quickest, easiest ones, right? So like I mentioned, lots of layers we can pull back. If we can pinpoint where the cravings are coming from and why they're happening, then we can get even more specific and customized with the tips that you need to be applying. So this is our starting point. You have to do these no matter what. They're very, very foundational. So tip number 1, blood sugar balance. You have to have balanced blood sugar. And this is really the number one reason why we experience cravings in the first place, if we had to really just pinpoint one. So if you are riding the blood sugar roller coaster of highs and lows, which can happen for a variety of reasons, then you're going to experience a lot of the signs and symptoms, not only of blood sugar imbalances as they relate to cravings, but also as they relate to your sleep, your energy levels, hormonal imbalances, your mood, anxiety. Lots and lots of things are connected to blood sugar. So that's why if you get a handle on this, everything gets easier for you. And really the goal with your nutrition approach, one of the foundational things should be balancing blood sugar. The other thing I like to point out is that blood sugar balance is a great way to take stress off the body. So if your other symptoms, like cravings, are coming from your body being under stress, or if your hormonal symptoms or your digestive symptoms are coming from your body being under stress, then this is a great way to lower stress on the body. And it's within our control as long as we know what to do about it. So we can do an entire mini training on blood sugar balance alone, but I'm going to scratch on some of the most important things you need to know. So putting us on the blood sugar roller coaster, I mean, it happens a lot in today's world, thanks to a lot of the conventional nutrition and diet advice that's out there. So as some examples, low calorie, or this could be like everything in moderation, so you end up eating pretty low calorie, small frequent meals, eating every 2 hours, snacking frequently, so you're not eating big solid meals, so you're snacking. Usually it's on whatever a lower calorie option is, so pretzels or just a piece of fruit or some carrots with some hummus. All of those, not supportive of blood sugar balance. Low fat, so this could be really processed low fat foods, or if you're doing like low fat dairy, low fat milk, yogurt, things like that. I used to eat low fat peanut butter. That's why I say low fat processed foods. If you're doing no carbs at all, so kind of going the opposite end, with the best of intention, I'm sure you're cutting out carbs. You're thinking this is going to really help my blood sugar. It's going to help with my cravings. But low carb, no carb for too long is a stressor on the body as well, especially for women in their reproductive years. So that can trigger cravings. Or you just run out of glycogen stores and then your body has to do a lot of work to produce that energy from other sources. Fasting, especially for longer than 12 to 16 hours, again, for reproductive women, this is very stressful on the body. Vegan and vegetarian, a lot of people will follow this approach with the, again, best of intentions, thinking that it's better for their health. And then the healthy whole grains recommendation, again, all of these things in some sort of combination. Maybe you're doing one but not the other, but if you can check off at least 2 to 3 of these, then you're likely riding the blood sugar roller coaster. So I like to point out that what impacts blood sugar, it goes beyond food, and it goes beyond just eating sugar and carbs. A lot of the women I work with, they're already eating pretty healthy and they're not eating a lot of sugar and carbs, except for whenever they have cravings, then they'll eat more. But on the most part, they're not eating a lot of sugar and carbs, so they don't think their blood sugar matters. And you do not have to be diabetic or pre-diabetic or even have high fasting blood glucose levels if you go to your doctor and get a regular test to be intentional about blood sugar balance. You should be intentional about it no matter what. So I like to point out the food related things that impact blood sugar balance. So not eating enough protein, especially bioavailable proteins, not eating enough calories in general. This is going to be a stress on the body and that's going to impact your blood sugar. Going to low carb, or on the other end, if we're talking more to like the standard American, they're probably too high carb, eating a lot of processed breads and grains and pastries and stuff like that. Going too low fat, I can't remember if I mentioned that, but cutting out fat, and that can put you on the blood sugar roller coaster. Improper meal timing, so again, small frequent meals, that can keep you on the blood sugar roller coaster. And then lack of minerals, especially sodium, which is salt, so we need to look at that too. And then the non-food related things, so maybe you're doing all the right things with your food and you're eating balanced macronutrients and stuff like that, but you still have a lot of stress on the body. You're not sleeping, so you're getting like 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. You're waking up at 2 to 3 a.m. every single night, so you're not getting that restorative sleep. You're over-exercising, doing lots and lots of cardio, lots of HIIT, long Peloton rides, things like that, and you're not getting any sunlight. So I like to point out just some stereotypical recommendations, stereotypical examples these are not recommendations. These are recommendations of what not to do. But I like to point it out because, again, it looks different than like you're eating healthy foods versus actually balancing your blood sugar throughout the day. So we're moving away from a lot of the conventional nutrition and diet advice that you might be following. So a daily example of food, again, this is what we're not doing. This is what I see a lot. And this connects a lot to blood sugar imbalances and the cravings and the hormone imbalances and the sleep issues that go along with blood sugar imbalances. So you wake up, you have some oatmeal, big bowl of carbs with some fruit and granola, more and more carbs. Again, not unhealthy foods, but this isn't supporting your blood sugar. Low-fat yogurt for a snack. Maybe you have a salad with low-fat dressing for lunch, a little bit of protein. You're doing carrots and hummus for a snack, and then a small dinner portion, or depending on how you feel by the evening if you're crashing, which you would be if you had this day earlier of food, so you don't have energy and you order something, right? Or you just throw together whatever you have on hand, or you just snack all through the evening. I see that, but then I also see just doing a smaller dinner, maybe some veggies, and then maybe you're adding some meat for protein, or if you're trying to follow like more of a vegetarian, vegan template, you would do beans, quinoa, things like that. Again, mostly carbohydrates, very, very high in carbs. So this is a typical example I see of trying to eat as healthy as they can, but still not supporting their blood sugar. And then if we look at non-food examples, we have this kind of stereotypical scenario where we wake up early after only sleeping for 6 hours. We head to the gym, or we do like an at-home Peloton ride or HIIT workout, something that's higher stress on the body. You're skipping breakfast and you're just drinking coffee. Maybe you eat your first meal at like noon or 1 p.m. You're not getting any sunlight because you're inside all day, you're in an office or you're working from home. And your exercise consists of mostly cardio. So you're going for long runs, you're doing more cardio instead of walking. You're not walking throughout the day and you're not lifting any weights. So that's the opposite of what we want to be doing if we want to support blood sugar balance. And so if we had to really kind of break it up into like the 6 key areas, this is what I like to look at. So I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. So we have to, and this is what we teach our one-on-one clients. And also this is inside the metabolism renewal course, broken up step by step. So it's actually kind of what a lot of the modules are based on. So we have structuring your plate. So that's what we think of first. Balanced plate formula. We want to follow that protein, fat, fiber combo. Swapping your carbs and really customizing them. So figuring out what type of carbs and what amount of carbs work best for you and your blood sugar. Smart meal timing. So again, this is customized based on your schedule. We don't want to be doing the small frequent meals though. We want to focus on solid meals that keep us full for 3 to 4 hours. Stress check, super important. Looking at all of the different areas that stress could be coming from. So it's not just like what we feel as stress or think of as stress. It comes from a lot of different areas. Like not getting enough sunlight as an example. Sleep quality, we want to make sure that you're falling asleep quickly and you're staying asleep all throughout the night, not even waking up to pee. And then strategic exercise, so walking and weights are going to be the main priority versus just more. So more is definitely not better. And also you shouldn't be sacrificing sleep for workouts. Sometimes it's better just not to push it at all. So those are the 6 ways to start balancing blood sugar. And again, we could do an entire mini training on that. So if that's something you want, definitely just let me know in the comments and I will create that for you. Okay, tip number 2 is to eat enough consistently. So I say consistently because I see a lot of women under eating and then overeating and kind of yo-yoing between the two, or they're under eating during the first half of the day and overeating during the second half of the day. So they feel like they're actually overeating when the reality is they're still not getting enough consistently. And this chronic dieting and kind of under eating scenario, it's a huge stress on the body. And this stress increases cortisol. That increase in cortisol requires salt and sodium and quick, easy sources of energy like sugar. So we want cravings for salty things and for sweet, sugary things. So imagine that. It makes a lot of sense, right? And not eating enough also has a downstream effect on your hormones, your metabolism, your thyroid, your blood sugar. So it goes both ways, going back to tip number 1. Also on your sleep. If you're not eating enough, you're probably struggling to stay asleep throughout the night. And on your digestion. If you're not eating enough, this can lead to slower digestion because your metabolism and your thyroid has slowed down, which can then lead to not only constipation, but also chronic bloating, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, downstream effect on so many things when we're not eating enough consistently. And this is also why I see chronic dieters, they not only have a harder time losing weight, but they also have more of these hormone and metabolic imbalances and digestive issues. So your energy needs have to be met, and we want to do this with nutrient-dense calories. So we're kind of getting that like combination of micronutrients and macronutrients in the right calorie amount. You're finding that sweet spot. And if we think about this logically, if you're not getting enough calories, which are your body's way to get energy, this leads to a biological need for that energy. And usually when you get to that point of your body really, really needing those calories, it's going to ask for the quickest, most enjoyable form possible. And so by eating enough throughout the day consistently, you're not going to experience that uncontrollable need for food. Instead, it's a very conscious, intentional decision that you know you have to eat, and you know you need to make that meal, and you make it satisfying and enjoyable, and it supports your goals. So you don't end up, again, overeating later on or having those cravings and quote unquote giving into them and then beating yourself up about it. So instead of, and this is a great place you can start, instead of sitting down and asking, how can I make this meal as low calorie as possible? Like if you go out to a restaurant and you're like, what's the lowest calorie option? It's going to be salad with like lean meat, vegetables, something like that. I want you to think, and this goes with making your meals at home too, how can I fill this meal with nutrient-dense calories that are easy to digest, that support my goals, that give me the micronutrients, the protein, the carbs, the fats that I need to feel full and satisfied and energized for the next 3 to 4 hours. You don't even have to think about food at all, which is really nice until you want to think about food. And that's whenever you create your very enjoyable, tasty meal. So another thing you can do, first sit down, be intentional with that thought, and then second, rate your meal satisfaction. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I like to make it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 satisfying, because it's something you're doing every single day, 3 times a day. Can't be like, 5-star chef meal all the time, but 7 out of 10 satisfying. Because if it's not, and something's missing, whether that's a salty carb source or a little bit more fat, or even just like a condiment to add some flavor, you're going to be seeking something later on, whether it's later that day, in the evening, on the weekend when you have like cheat meals. I feel like you can't stick to your diet, or the next month, or maybe it'll be in a couple years. But either way, you need to make sure that your meals are enjoyable and satisfying and really do the trick. This is why I don't recommend doing like the non-caloric kind of like fake sweeteners, because your body's smart and it knows if you're having that fake sweetness that there should be calories and nutrients coming along with it, like maple syrup or honey. That way you get the calories, yes, but you get the sweetness, you get the macronutrients and micronutrients, and your body feels satisfied overall. And if you are somebody who's trying to either lose weight or maintain your weight, you might be thinking, I don't want to increase calories because I'll start gaining weight. So it can be very scary at first, but if you do it slow and steady, you will see the difference that it makes, especially if you struggle with overeating later in the day. So you'll find that whenever you make this adjustment and you prioritize eating enough consistently and your body gets what it needs, you'll no longer have those periods of overeating or cravings because your body's getting the real deal initially, earlier on in the day. And your calorie intake will actually balance out so that fat loss is much, much easier. And you're not feeling out of control around foods or like you have to avoid certain foods or keep them out of the house. So that's the second tip, is to make sure you're eating enough calories consistently. Again, we teach our clients how to customize their calorie sweet spot, making sure they're eating enough to support their goals. And this is also something that there's an entire module broken down in metabolism renewal, and it teaches you literally how to calculate your calorie needs and figure out and evaluate if right now you're eating enough consistently. Okay, tip number 3 is to hydrate with minerals. So drinking more and more water is not better, and it's not going to hydrate yourself. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on minerals, and minerals are also important not only for hydration and proper like absorption of the water you're drinking, but also for making energy, for making hormones, and hormones regulate your hunger and your fat loss. So hormones are important for lowering stress in the body, which we know is important as well from the previous tips. Specifically, potassium, magnesium, and sodium. These 3 are really, really helpful for regulating blood sugar, going back to tip number 1, and for actually hydrating the cells. So we want to make sure we're hydrating on a cellular level. And I always like to point out that hydration isn't just simply drinking more and more water. So if you've ever just tried to chug more water to, one, avoid cravings, or two, fill up your stomach, this is going to be really bad for your digestion, first and foremost. But two, it's, again, not addressing the root cause, the reason you have those cravings and hunger in the first place. So just drinking a ton of water is not the answer, and it will not make you more hydrated. It can actually dehydrate you if it's throwing off that mineral balance. So you want to get water paired with minerals for proper absorption. And these are some tips for actually doing this. So quick and easy one is just to add a mineral blend to your water daily. So I really like Element, Bumbleroot is a good one, Ultima is a good one, and also I really like Relight. I'm adding this right now. So Relight is another really, really good one. I would say Relight and Element are my favorites. You can order both of those online. Second one is to make your own mineral mocktail. Again, we have a ton of mineral mocktail recipes that we share with clients, and inside Metabolism Renewal, there's a whole entire section on mineral mocktail recipes, but this is basically combining beverages like coconut water, aloe vera juice, things that, fresh orange juice, other fresh juices that are high in minerals, and that you can kind of mix and match, so it's a very like tasty, satisfying treat. And this is great in the afternoon too, around 3 p.m. If you start to hit that slump and have cravings, then you can just drink a mineral mocktail. Eating and drinking more sea salt. I really like Redmond sea salt. You can add it to food, add it to water. That's an easy way to get more minerals. And then eating mineral-rich foods as well. So bone broth, which you're technically drinking, but you can add that to other things that you're cooking. Oysters are really mineral dense. Sea vegetables, organ meats, which you can also supplement with if you don't want to cook or you don't like the taste of organ meats. And then fresh fruit. All of these are going to have a lot of minerals, again, that help with hydration, but also help to balance blood sugar and just eliminate those cravings. And then the last thing is to just make sure you're sticking to half your body weight in ounces of water. Doing more and more and more is not always better, and it can also lead to digestive issues as well. So those are the 3 tips. We tried to keep it simple. Again, these are the foundational ones. I wanted to give you 2 bonus tips though, because sometimes it goes beyond just supporting your body on this physiological level. So bonus tip number 1 is to just get really real with yourself and ask yourself, what foods do you crave, and are you trying to restrict those foods? It's no coincidence that the foods you crave are also the ones you're trying to avoid constantly. So figure out what foods you're trying to restrict and ask yourself why you're trying to restrict it. And if it is a actual like allergic reaction, you're probably not craving it that much anyways. But also it could be digestion. And if it is digestion, then we need to work through that because I completely understand food fears around causing digestive issues. But if you are arbitrarily trying to avoid a food because you were told it's bad, potato chips, French fries, ice cream, something like that you actually crave, then I want you to like either write it down and list out why you're avoiding it. And then ultimately decide if you want to keep fighting that and if it's actually something that you could have in the overall context of a nutrient-dense diet and eating enough calories consistently. You would probably crave those less, or you'd be able to add them in so that you don't feel like they are controlling you. So pay attention to what you're craving, and instead of actually fighting it, I want you to just check in with yourself and ask, what's my body trying to tell me? Why is it asking for this food all of the time? Is it one of these 3 reasons? Mineral imbalances, blood sugar imbalances, not eating enough consistently, or is it this cognitive dissonance and you want to eat that food because you're telling yourself that you can't eat that food? So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, this goes back to the biological needs, but understanding your hormonal fluctuations and where you are in your cycle, it is life-changing, not only for cravings and hunger and understanding why you have more hunger and cravings during certain times of the month, specifically during your luteal phase, but it also makes a difference for deciding how to eat and how to work out and how to socialize and how to work, do all of the things based on where you are in your cycle. So understanding your hormonal fluctuations and knowing where you are makes a huge difference. Your metabolic rate actually increases during the second half of your cycle. So after you ovulate into your luteal phase, which is typically when we experience a lot of PMS and cravings, your metabolism is actually higher. So your body needs more calories. It's burning more and therefore it needs more. So adding an extra simply 200 to 300 calories during this phase, it can help to prevent those cravings and periods of overeating, and it can improve PMS symptoms, and it will lead to easier periods as well if you struggle with that. So that's another kind of bonus tip. Understand where you are in your cycle, knowing that things change on a weekly basis. There are 4 phases of your cycle, and your metabolic rate is higher during that second half, so you need more calories during that second half. And one recommendation I like to make, honestly, is just simply adding in an extra 200 calorie snack or 200 calorie mineral mocktail, so you're getting a 2 for 1 there. Okay, so those are the 3 tips and then 2 bonus tips, and kind of deciding what's next. So it's completely up to you. You can start with these tips. You can implement them based on this mini training and get really good at them. And then if you're already doing them or you want help doing them and you want to take the next step, then I definitely recommend applying to work one-on-one with us. With this, you'll get the tools, the education, the accountability, all 3 of the things that are really, really important for customizing and having a sustainable plan. Also understanding your body and just feeling really confident in your food choices. And then you'll also get more detailed, customized plans and resources. So we give you everything inside of Practice Better, which is where we communicate, where we have sessions, where you get all of your resources and actual nutrition recommendations, meal planning items, things like that. So that's another option for you. And then number 3 is if you're kind of like, I want to do this, but on my own time and my own schedule, then I recommend signing up for Metabolism Renewal. I mentioned it a couple times in this training, but that has essentially all of the tools you need to support your cravings, support your blood sugar, support your metabolism, and therefore have a customized nutrition approach that supports your weight for the long term. And this is especially helpful for women who have already kind of done a lot of diets, or maybe they haven't yet, but they don't want to do it the wrong way. So they see other people dieting and following different nutrition recommendations that are doing more harm than good to their metabolism and hormones. So that's where Metabolism Renewal really comes in. So you can make the changes at your own pace with a course that has everything that you need. And you get full access to everything in there as soon as you enroll. So I will link a link to the Metabolism Renewal course if you want to sign up for that. And then I'll also put in the link to apply to work together one-on-one. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll chat a little bit before just to make sure it's a good fit and explain more in detail about what it actually looks like to get support from us so we can make sure that we're on the same page there. So I'll put both of those tips below. All right, I hope this little mini training was helpful for you. And if there's anything else that you want me to do a training on, just pop it in the comments, let me know, and I will create that for you. All right, bye.